on a remote island off the coast of Colombia. A small crab embarks on an epic adventure. She's bearing a precious cargo, 85,000 fertilized eggs. She's now confronted with the biggest challenge of her life, to get them to water. She begins a massive journey from her mountain home to the coast. She must face hostile forests, a barrage of crab killers, and deadly crossings. Time is running out. She has just 3 days to reach the water and release her eggs. Across the island, thousands of crabs emerge, an army of females laden with eggs. This is Providencia, home to the march of the crabs. A small island rises out of the Caribbean Sea. Providencia. Just 8.5 square miles of rocky hills. At its heart, 1,000 feet above sea level, a normally nocturnal resident emerges from her burrow. A female black land crab. Her rocky home, 400 miles from Colombia's Atlantic coast, was thrown up by volcanic activity 14 million years ago. Its highest peak is 1,100 feet above sea level. Just below the summit, this crab has chosen to make her home. She settled here 4 years ago. Since that time, she's been slowly growing. She's been through more than a dozen molts, each time shedding her shell as her body expands and matures. She's now 2 inches across her carapace, halfway to being fully grown. 10 days ago, she mated for the first time. Now she faces a daunting mission. In just 3 days, this tiny crab must make her way back to a beach on the southwest corner of the island to release her eggs. This is where her own story first began. She was one of thousands of eggs released by her mother off the island's southwest beach. For the first 20 days of her life, she was a tiny larva, no bigger than a grain of rice. Carried by the ocean's currents, she drifted into deeper water, joining simple, microscopic animals and the young larvae of other species. This is the base of the ocean's food chain, plankton. The life of a planktonic baby crab is fraught with danger. Many marine animals feed on plankton, from small fish to some of the biggest appetites in the ocean. Whale sharks. Unlike most other sharks, whale sharks are filter feeders and sieve tiny creatures from the water through modified gills. They can scoop up whole shoals of larvae in a single mouthful. The biggest fish in the sea, over 40 feet long, they can eat up to 46 pounds of plankton a day. Migrating through the Caribbean, some stop in the waters off Providencia to take advantage of the annual black land crab spawn and feast on the crab larvae. Some years, none of the larvae survive to return to shore. This female defied the odds and was one of the lucky few to avoid being eaten. After 20 days growing at sea, the currents were favourable and brought her back to shore. She arrived an ant-sized juvenile crab. Having made landfall, instinct drove her inland. But there are 3 million crabs on this island. Trying to find a patch of unclaimed territory is tough, and larger crabs sometimes kill intruding youngsters. So slowly she made her way up into the rocky high country and found some available real estate with plenty of food and a safe shelter among the rocks. The perilous journey would have taken the small crab several weeks as she dodged the numerous predators that inhabit the island. She's been hiding out here ever since. As a land crab, she normally spends her days hiding in her burrow, safe from predators and out of the drying rays of the sun. At night, she emerges to feed on plant material that she brings back to her burrow to eat. It's a simple routine, day and night, unchanging for 4 years. But now it's time to begin the cycle of life again. Having mated just over a week ago, she's now the bearer of 85,000 fertilized eggs. They're still developing, but the clock is ticking. In 3 days, they'll be ready to hatch. Once she starts her march, they'll be exposed to the elements. She'll travel both day and night. If she can't complete her journey in that time, they'll dry out and die. So she must leave the safety of her home and quickly make her way down to the beach. She begins her quest alone. But it won't be for long. Across the island, millions of female black land crabs are starting journeys of their own, which they might repeat up to 5 times in their life. This incredible seasonal mating and migration is triggered only when moisture levels rise sufficiently during the rainy season, which can happen any time between April and July. The rain prevents their eggs from drying out during their journey. This year, the rains are light, but they're enough to have triggered the mating season. Guardedly, she slowly descends. She's exposed out in the open to predators and the fierce Caribbean sun. She looks for the brightest spot in the sky or reflecting on the ground, using the location of the sun or moon to orient herself. When she's on easy terrain, this little crab can cover 165 feet an hour, but the rocks slow her down. After half a day's difficult descent, the terrain starts to level out. Gradually, her rocky home is replaced by jungle. This is dry tropical forest, populated by deciduous, broadleaf trees. It's one of the most threatened environments on the planet. It's been decimated by farming across many Caribbean islands. Providencia is one of the few places where the forest is still intact. The deep leaf litter makes it slow going for the crab. tree's long taproots are an added obstacle to her already slow progress. But there are far worse things than roots to contend with in the forest. A black iguana. At over 4 feet long, this male is an intimidating sight. His bold black stripes are prominent as he heads into the canopy to sunbathe. He's cold-blooded, or ectothermic, and needs the sun's warmth to heat his body. The darker his stripes, the more heat he'll absorb. Once he's reached his optimum temperature, the contrast will fade and he'll be fully charged. This is when he's most dangerous to the crab. Although mainly a vegetarian, he won't pass up the opportunity of a protein-packed meal, especially one wandering right under his doorstep. Being nocturnal normally minimizes the crab's chances of running into predators like this. But traveling by day, she's taking a terrible risk. If she's killed, it's not just one life lost from the crab population. It's also the 85,000 eggs she carries with her. Another black iguana notices the crab. Her path is blocked. This could be the end of the road for the young female and her brood. But at the last minute, the two male iguanas spot each other. Black iguanas are highly territorial. One of them is gate crashing. The sunbathing male stakes his claim and signals his annoyance with the intruder by head bobbing. He flexes small bones in his throat outwards to extend the skin and make himself look bigger and more intimidating. While the iguanas are distracted by their territorial argument, the crab makes good her escape. As she descends, the environment changes again, bringing new dangers. Open pockets are colonized by thorn-laden bullhorns, a type of acacia tree. Many acacias have high levels of toxins in their leaves to dissuade plant eaters. But bullhorns don't. Instead, they employ vicious bodyguards, acacia ants. The ants are attracted to the tree's nectar and protein-rich oils and make their homes inside the thorns. But once they've established a colony, the ants can never leave. The tree demands loyalty by secreting an enzyme that prevents the ants from digesting sugar from any other source. To survive, the colony must defend its food source, and ironically, the ants will fight to the death to do so. They will destroy other saplings growing too close and muscling in on the acacia's light and nutrients. And they will rapidly descend on invading insects, stinging them into submission, and will even attack much larger animals. A lone crab wouldn't stand a chance against a horde of thousands of stinging acacia ants. But the female has no choice. Her route takes her straight through the acacia thicket. Fortunately, she's not alone. As she descends, her path converges with those of other crabs heading from the high country to the coast. Tentatively, they creep forwards. The first crab makes its move. It instinctively moves from one shady hideout to another. But this is not the tree to stop under. The ants quickly pick up the unfamiliar scent of the invaders and launch their attack. A crab this size is no real threat to the acacia, but defense is so hardwired into the ants that they go instantly into action. For a human, an acacia ant's acidic sting is like that of a bee. The pain can be excruciating. The ants search for chinks in the crab's thick armor. They target its leg joints and eyes. The ambushed black land crab instinctively folds its eyes into protective grooves. But there's no escape. They pump a cocktail of chemicals, including formic acid, into the crab. The toxins dissolve its body tissues, paralyzing its joints. Soon, it can't move. Its fate is sealed. As the colony focuses on the unlucky victim, the female grabs her chance. Shaking off a few ant soldiers, she quickly makes her way through the acacia thicket. The first day of her major migration has seen her cover more than half a mile. It's a good start to her journey. More importantly, she's still alive, and her eggs are safe. But there's still a long way to go, and she needs to rest. She sinks into the leaf litter to recuperate. Change is in the air. A storm is brewing. The brief downpour is just what the migrating crabs need. Though they're land-based, like all crustaceans, they still breathe through gills, which they need to keep moist. The rains bring out more crabs. Every hour, new females emerge to join the march. Some crustaceans have a long, fleshy abdomen that they use to swim. In prawns and crayfish, this is the part that humans eat. In crabs, the abdomen is a short flap called a pleon, which wraps under the carapace and holds the bundle of eggs in place. Gravid females are said to be berried. Our female's cluster of berries are quickly maturing and getting bigger. She needs to get her timing right and deliver them into the sea just as they're ready to hatch. The low clouds quickly evaporate as the temperature climbs once more across the island. Being so close to the equator, it usually reaches the low 80s as a steady year-round high. Providencia's lizard population comes out to bask in the sun. Just like the much bigger black iguanas, these crab cay anoles are territorial. As the female crab continues her migration to the southwest corner of the island, she passes under a 3-inch male anole, asserting his dominance. From his vantage point, he aggressively gestures to his neighbours. He's making sure his property boundaries are observed. He flashes his dewlap, an elongated throat pouch, to make himself look more menacing. His neighbours, safe in their own territories, flash back. They're no threat to the passing crab. These tiny reptiles feed on small insects and fruit. But their preoccupation with territorial disputes puts the anoles themselves at risk. The dense, tangled jungle growing at these lower elevations is the perfect hideout for predators. A boa is hunting for breakfast. It detects its prey with heat signatures and the vibrations created by their movements. The crab freezes as the 6-foot snake slithers past. Spotted. She quickly rises up in defense, showing off her powerful pincers. It's enough to put the reptile off, and it resumes its hunt elsewhere. The crab scuttles on. Snakes are nervous climbers, even species like the boa that spend a lot of time in the trees. The boa moves its body like an accordion. While some of its coils extend its reach, others hold on tight. So tight, in fact, that it grips the branch with 20 times the force needed to hold it in place. It's this same strength that enables it to squeeze the life out of its prey and ensures that the snake won't fall. But it requires a lot of energy. This unnecessary expenditure has puzzled scientists. Under normal circumstances, snakes lead very energy-efficient lifestyles, spending long periods without movement to conserve energy. Perhaps the benefit of exerting the extra energy needed to climb outweighs the cost of a potentially damaging fall. The boa's arrival in the canopy isn't welcomed by other residents. It's buzzed by banana quits, small songbirds with distinctive eye stripes, as well as a rare pair of vireos. These tiny flycatchers are unique to Providencia and its neighbouring islands. Screeching and flicking their tails, the birds mob the potential threat. They're letting all other animals in the area know of the danger. A stealth hunter, there's not much point in the boa continuing its hunt with all the commotion. But resting brings a new challenge, even to this strong predator. A mosquito searches for a weak spot in the snake's scaly covering to drink its blood. Now perhaps the whistle-blowing birds might prove advantageous. They're flycatchers and help keep the insect population down. Once the birds shift their focus from the snake to chasing mosquitoes, the boa moves on. Despite the mobbing and the opportunistic bloodsucker, the climb may have been worth it. The boa spots the male anole, distracted with its territorial display. But the anole's keen eyesight spots movement. It freezes. Perhaps the snake won't see it. Time for a leap of faith. The passing of the large snake stirs up insects, inadvertently helping another forest predator. A golden orb web spider. She's set traps throughout the branches. Along the lines of silk are tiny drops of glue, secreted by glands on her abdomen. Once the mosquito makes contact, there's no escape. The spider feels the vibrations as her trap is sprung. She pumps tissue-dissolving venom into the bug and wraps it in silk. She'll let the venom dissolve it from the inside, then come back later to suck up the insect smoothie. Below, the female black land crab hurries on. She's now more than halfway through her journey, but she can't afford any delays. If she's to deliver her eggs at exactly the right time, she has just 36 hours left to complete her mission. She's already faced numerous dangers, but the biggest hurdle is yet to come. The entire island is encompassed by a road. Around 6,000 people live on Providencia, and all of them use this road, the only route to anywhere. But it's an unavoidable obstacle for egg-bearing crabs trying to reach the coast. All of them will have to cross it. It takes a bigger toll on the crab migration than any other threat. The tarmac is already littered with the evidence of failed crossings. As the second day of her journey comes to a close, the female hunkers down for a rest before making the perilous crossing. But other crabs, desperate to deliver their eggs in time, march on. Caught in the headlights, crabs must dodge the wheels. For many, it's the last thing they'll see. In a macabre twist, the squashed crabs help those that survive. To fuel the journey, some crabs turn cannibal, picking over the remains of their fallen comrades. Were crabs to have nightmares, it would surely be this. In the early hours of the morning, our female makes her move. Even at this time, the road is surprisingly busy. Long before the sun's up, fishermen are heading to the docks to ready their boats. Busy with their own journeys, they ignore the crabs making theirs. Another close shave. Some cannibal crabs linger to feed, but in doing so they risk becoming another course. Our female, like all the others, is on a tight schedule and keeps going. Success. No sooner has the female got over one hurdle, she's faced with another. The early morning light reveals a mob blocking her path. More crabs, but these ones are different. Blue land crabs are abundant in the lowlands closer to the coast. They're often bigger than the migrating black land crabs, with bodies that can span up to 6 inches across. The males are equipped with an enlarged claw. This one brandishes its weapon as the female black land crab approaches. The blue males are fiercely protective of the small patch of land around their burrows, and the sudden influx of black land crabs has them all worked up. Like the black land crab, blues are mostly plant eaters, collating fruit and leaves that fall close to home. But they have been known to turn cannibal. Undeterred, the female muscles through. As with the black land crabs, the wet season has triggered the breeding of the blues. The males have already played their part. They used pheromones to draw females into their burrows for mating. Now, 2 weeks on, their females are also heading to the coast to release their eggs. So they too join the march. As the sun climbs, penetrating the vegetation, waking animals bring the forests to life. Finches forage, and reptiles emerge from the leaf litter to bask in the morning sun. The tiny anoles stay out of the way of the larger lizards, foraging for breakfast. A foot-long rainbow whiptail searches for insects. But it's an opportunist and wouldn't hesitate to snatch a smaller lizard. The crabs hurry on, but they're being watched. Yellow-crowned night herons have gathered to take advantage of the travelling seafood buffet. Known locally as crab crushers, these herons are solitary and patient hunters. The heron's beak easily smashes through the tough crab carapace. Then it swallows its victim whole. Luckily, there are only so many crabs a heron can stomach, and with its belly full, this one flies off to digest. both blue and black land crabs that escape the crab crusher press on. They're less than half a mile from the coast, but the path ahead is a rich mosaic of habitats. A creek snakes through the forest. Although there's water here, it's brackish, a mix of fresh water flowing down from the hills and salt water from the sea. It's not salty enough for the crabs to spawn. Crabs evolved in the ocean and remain tied to it. Their young cannot survive fresh water, so they must press on. The creek supports another landscape that the crabs must negotiate. Mangrove. This will slow down the progress of our female crab. She hasn't had to deal with terrain like this since she was a baby 4 years ago. She cautiously picks her way through the dense tangle of roots. These are a mangrove trademark. The trees are saltwater specialists. They live in dense mud that's low in oxygen. Specialized roots protrude like periscopes, absorbing oxygen directly from the air. Desperate to reach the water, the crab gingerly picks her way through the maze of vertical spires. Her slow progress is being carefully watched by a mangrove resident, a red-footed tortoise. But he's no threat. He spends at least half the day sleeping, so his energy demands are low. His food needs are minimal, and he's not a fussy eater. The cooler morning hours are the perfect time for him to forage. Most plant matter, fungi, and even insects are all on the menu, though he'll also scavenge. The occasional bit of carrion provides calcium that's lacking in the mangrove leaves. It's now day 3. The crab's deadline looms. Having descended the mountain, traversed the forest, and navigated her way through the tangled mangroves, the crab is almost, finally, at the water's edge. She's surrounded by crabs, both blue and black, all laden with eggs. They've come from all over the island and arrived en masse in perfect sync to hit the beach at nightfall. They're all aiming for this same point, and it is here that the crabs will finally complete their journey. Most of the coastline is rocky, but here there is a gentle slope that will allow the crabs to paddle and safely release their eggs. The ideal conditions are all thanks to the fine sand on the beach. The crabs have this ideal spawning site thanks to the work of industrious fish living just offshore. Parrotfish. Their home is the 3rd longest barrier reef on Earth, one that stretches 20 miles along the coast, covering 95 square miles. The parrotfish spend up to 90% of their day feeding on algae. They use powerful bird-like beaks and a set of strong grinding teeth to scrape the algae off the rock and break up the coral. The result is a cleaner, healthier reef. And the byproduct is sand. A large parrotfish can poop out up to 200 pounds of sand a year, much of which is washed onto the beach a mile away by the currents. This creates the perfect spawning environment for the black and blue land crabs. Night falls on day 3. Under the cover of darkness, the female emerges, at last sensing the proximity of the sea. She's one of the first to arrive. It's been an arduous journey, but her mission isn't over yet. There's one last hurdle before she can spawn. In the dense mangrove, she couldn't see the light that's her guide. She's misjudged her exit and come out on a boulder pile at the end of the bay. Heavy with eggs, she's forced to carefully pick her way down the steep slope. She's not the only one to make the mistake. Behind her, thousands of crabs begin to pour down the rock face. This is not the gently sloping sandy shore they need. Waves breaking around the rocks have carved out deeper channels. But the pull of the water's strong. Finally, she can dip her feet in the ocean. She isn't here for a swim. Though land crabs are tolerant of salt water, they're not strong swimmers. Each crab searches for a suitable place to spawn without being swept away. They scramble off the rocks onto the gently sloping beach. But having reached her destination, the female black land crab suddenly stops. She's right to hang back. Many of the first wave of crabs have misjudged the gentle surf. Small as they are, the waves create a strong undercurrent around the rocks that sweeps them out into the deeper water close to the reef. Night is a dangerous time to go swimming. Tawny nurse sharks. These sleek hunters stalk the shallow waters of the reef. Sharks are able to hunt in the dark thanks to electroreceptors on their skin. These specialized organs allow them to detect the tiniest electrical signals generated by the muscles of moving prey. Any land crabs that have been swept out to sea don't stand a chance. Vacuumed up by enlarged gill chambers. The exhausted female crabs desperately try to release their precious broods while dodging the surf. Still, the spawning goes on. Female crabs are now swarming the beaches. Those who have released their eggs are already making their way back to the safety of the forest. But our female black land crab is still holding back. Perhaps she's mistimed it and her eggs aren't quite ready to hatch. She climbs to the safety of a rock and waits. As the first hint of dawn lights the sky, a new threat appears overhead. Frigate birds, known locally as man of war. aerial fighters famed for mobbing other seabirds to steal their catch. They breed on the cliffs above the beach, and each morning patrol Providencia's coastline in search of an easy meal. The spawning crabs are an easy target. But for the female, it's now or never. Her eggs are ready to hatch. As soon as they make contact with water, the young larvae start to emerge. She pumps her abdomen, releasing them into the current. More than 85,000 chances for her to propagate her genes. Perhaps only one or two will survive to adulthood, to breed themselves, but that's enough to make all her efforts worthwhile. In 2 or 3 weeks, the lucky few will clamber ashore as baby crabs, ready to take to the hills to mature. Her legacy fulfilled, the exhausted female begins her journey home. Ahead, she faces 2 miles of thick forest and a scramble up 1,000 feet of rocks, with predators lurking at every turn. But at least now the pressure's off. She's egg-free and can take her time. She'll recover in the mountains until next spring, when the clouds build and the march begins again.